Hi guys, and welcome to another edition of Go Figure here on Dead Men's Tales and Turnbuckles. And in this episode, I'm going to be answering the age-old question: what happens when your drunk self on a Saturday night gets let loose on your Vinted Wishlist? Yes. I think a tiny bit of context is probably needed before we open these up. But yes, the wonderful thing about Vinted, as it is with eBay, but not quite so much. I think Vinted, I get lost a lot more especially when I'm looking for wrestling stuff, and I've found the best way to not lose sight of certain things that you want to probably go back to is to add them to your wish list. I've said before that it's ideal in a sense for getting deals, because quite often when I've added things to my Vinted favorites list, the seller has come forward with an offer for a lower price. It's brilliant. It works well. But when you have a favorites list as big as mine, and then on a Saturday night, payday weekend, you're relaxing, scrolling through, and all of a sudden at a certain stage after, probably one glass too many, I'm not sure, it starts to, the other part of your brain kicks in, the one that has been saying all week or all month, best not for now, can't really afford it, you don't really need that. All those get silenced by this other one that comes in and decides, actually, no, that is a good price. Don't worry about the postage there. Buy. And before you know it, you wake up on a Sunday morning to a load of notifications that items are on their way, which is great for a collector, because then you end up with stuff to open, which I've been really enjoying, obviously, doing through this. What it is doing, as I hinted in the last video, is giving me a bit of a problem in terms of space already, because I haven't got any allocated spaces except for here to be storing stuff, because I was only meant to be keeping my collection to that. But there we have it. Best not cry over unopened packages. So there's only one thing for this. Let's get over there and crack into it. So this is the damage. And this is only over a space of probably a couple of days. There you go. So yeah, I had some fun on Saturday night, seemingly. I have a habit, like I said at the top, of adding things to wish lists, really so I don't lose sight of them. Maybe, at some point I may decide to pull the trigger on a couple of these things like I have done, but it just seemed quite easy, payday weekend, and I couldn't convince myself why I didn't need these, why they were lingering on my wish list and not here with me in my collection. So I'll get straight into it. This is no particular order at all. It's just the order that they're going to come in the pile. So this is Vinted. Most of these are Vinted. I don't think I've got any. I may have one eBay on here. I'm not sure. But we'll see a bit of a mix as well. But they do kind of mainly belong to one line, as I'm sure you'd expect. So number one in the collection obviously had to be the British Bulldog, Davey Boy Smith. Not one I had. I never had a Jakks BCA of the British Bulldog. I've seen a couple of these about. One was the white trunks. They're again going fairly cheap at the minute. This one has seen better days in terms of obviously scuffs and marks, and see the usual problem with these figures because of the rubber is that it's a bit of a bugger to clean off, although that is coming off, so maybe I can actually do a bit of work and get him looking a bit better. But I wouldn't be a true Brit or British wrestling fan if I didn't have the British Bulldog in the collection. I wasn't a fantastic fan of his heel run. I think when he turned heel in '95, it was shocking, didn't see it coming. I quite liked those first few months, seeing him as a heel with, the really quite almost shaved head different attitude. I never knew him as a heel. I never knew him from back in his early days when he and Dynamite were heels, you know, and they kind of, especially when they were up in Stampede Wrestling, I think they had time each as heels. But this was a new one for me. It just didn't seem to, once that initial flourish of action with him and Diesel came and went with no great fanfare, kind of fell flat, and we'd never thought he was going to win the world title when he went up against Shawn Michaels and Bret Hart and that. It's a great figure, though. Let's talk about the figure. I love the play pose. Really lends itself well to doing suplex, hooking the head in there, the power slam, obviously. It's what I love about this line. I probably said it before, is just the simplicity of the play pose and the molds, the sculpts, because, yeah, they are just pick them up and do what you want with them without being hampered by gimmick actions. Love the tassels on the boots. I did like that about Davey Boy. I think his favourite look, my favourite look of him, for me, is 93 when he was in WCW, and he still had the braids, but he was a lot more tasselled. He had the tassels on the boots and probably down his legs and that. I really like that look. But there we go. British Bulldog, Davey Boy Smith, finally in my collection. Like I said, I only ever had Hasbro, the British Bulldog. I never had the Jakks of him at all that I can remember. Now this one, we're coming full circle back to the reason I started collecting and what I was doing in the first couple of episodes of Go Figure. And we are finally adding another to the Galoob collection. And this was one, if you've seen my Go Figure episode, my Figured Out episode for the main podcast with Andrew Lascelles, this guy was in my top 5 that I picked for that show, Elegante. He was one, it was trickier to find one that was in decent enough condition, but this one I was really pleased with the state. There's obviously a tiny little bit of paint really on the hair. Normally the eyebrows have gone. A little bit of specks there, but normally, again, as we see with the Galoobs, it's around the backside that it seemed to lose most paint. But really happy to finally, I think it's been a good at least 3 weeks, 4 weeks probably since I last added a Galoob to the collection, and I'm glad that I finally got one of these, and comes with a belt as well. I just love the look of this. As I said in that episode, if you haven't seen it, go back and watch it, because I give like the full story behind the importance of Elegante for me. And in short, it was a real surprise find when I was up at my aunt and uncle's in Lincolnshire when I was a kid, trying to scour the toy shops looking for this mythical Diesel figure that my cousin said he had seen. And lo and behold, in the last toy shop we went to, I found him. And I love the look of Elegante. It was really futuristic at the time. And I quite liked him in WCW when they patched, they put him together with Sting and the likes of Dustin Rhodes, Junkyard Dog, and that. He couldn't do a lot in the ring, but he was very imposing. And as a figure, he was great because the scale of him, I mean, he was the only Galoob and Hasbro that I could use in my fig fed when I started to get more of this size. It was odd because scale wise he wasn't the giant anymore. He was just sort of the same, but you could sort of do something with. He still had a part, but I think compared to the Hasbros and the Galoobs, his size, I loved having a giant that was bigger than Andre the Giant's Hasbro, basically, because my cousin had him, and then I was basically like, my giant is bigger than yours. So there we go. Captured the likeness really well. I love this. One of my favourite Galoobs, one of my favourite figures ever. Play pose was a bit odd for him. Couldn't really do a lot with him, but it was just great to have him there. So there we go. Really, really happy that I'm adding to the Galoob collection again after so long. It's another one off the list. I'll flash my checklist up either here or at the end of the video to show how I'm doing with the Galoobs. So that's one more off of Series 2 of the figures. I think I've still got blue Barry Windham, blue Brian Pillman, Dustin Rhodes, entrance gear Sting. I think that's it. I think that might be it. I'll have to go back and have a look. So the next one, sticking with your Vinted. I got lucky with a double pack Not one that you could buy as a double pack back in the day, but the seller was selling these together. And one in particular which really drove me to buy these two, as you'll see in a minute, because no collection is ever complete without a Hitman. So not two for the price of one. I'd probably don't see for both. First of all, Jakks BCA Bret the Hitman Hart. I do believe this is the Superstar Series 1 release, because it didn't really do many of Bret. By that point, he had left. I don't think they did any later releases of him when he came back late 96 and through 97. I don't remember any others, but I think they might have done I think they did a 2 tough pack, possibly with Owen Hart. But I love this again, as you do with the Hasbros, a lot of wear on the vest there. But classic Hitman look from the mid-90s. Very, very loose. That's the only thing I'll say with this one. He's going to be an absolute bugger to stand up, but I'll find a way. But yeah, I mean, it's great as well. Have Bret and the Bulldog together. I've got an Owen as Blue Blazer, obviously. I need to get an Owen. And I don't think they did the Jim Neidhart in the Jakks line. Not the BCAs. Correct me if I'm wrong. But there we go. So Bret the Hitman Hart. Look in really good condition, except for, on there. I mean, if you turn around the back, it's not too bad. The actual legs, the lower part of him, fared really well. It's just wobbly as hell. It's going to be really interesting trying to find somewhere for him to be able to stand up. And the next one, again, really wobbly, but obviously well played with. Hunter Hearst Helmsley, as I'm going to call him, rather than Triple H, because this is what he was at the time. This is what I was referencing in the last video, was the first version I had of Hunter Hearst Helmsley, Triple H, was in this gear. So back when he was in his Blue Blood days, in his early run from 95, he started to change that around about 98, I think, when sort of degeneration, when he became the leader of DX, you saw him wear this less and more the tights that we saw in the last figure last week. But I love this one. It is quite a good likeness, really, as Jakks go back then. It wasn't too bad. I loved the look of these tights. There was just something about that era of Triple H I actually really I remember fondly. But yeah, another one that he's going to be an absolute nightmare to stand up. But it was really Bret Hart that made me go for this, but the fact that I could get one of the original type of Triple H's that I had. So obviously I've got a newer one, the DX one that I showed you last week, I think, or the week before. So we're doing well so far. So actually Drunk Chris so far has done quite well. Would I have just lingered and not bought these ones until later on, or missed out on them? Probably. So we'll move on to the next one. This was a little bit of an impromptu one. Again, it was on my wish list. This is an eBay one. This isn't Vinted. This is not Drunk Chris. This was Sentimental Chris. Obviously, last week, as I'm shooting this, we lost a great in Steve Mongo McMichael. And at the time, I did have this figure on my watch list on eBay. And it was then that, I think, knowing that we'd lost him and that, I was like, almost before anyone else snaps him up, I'm going to never had a Steve McMichael figure. It was one of those that I always wanted, never saw in the shops. He is chunky. This is actually a really nice, I think if I'd had this back in the day, this actually captures him really well as the kind of thick set guy he was, because he wasn't a small guy at all. You see here the Four Horsemen on here. I think you got this. I know you could get this in a 4-pack as a Four Horsemen with Ric Flair, Dean Malenko, Steve McMichael, Chris Benoit. Don't know if you could get this on its own, whether this has come from that pack or whether you could get them on its own. I really don't know. But as the Toy Biz line goes, I really like this one. It's really chunky, substantial, captures his likeness really well. The only thing with this one is he's missing his ponytail, which if I ever come across someone selling the ponytail or even selling a more complete version of Steve McMichael, I may trade him out. But for now, I'm just really, really glad to have him in my collection. Again, like I say, was one that I always wanted to lay my hands on, but didn't really seem to find him where I was. I don't know if he was on general sale much over here. Obviously, if you know your history, he was a former NFL great, played with the Chicago Bears. He was notable in Lawrence Taylor's All-Star team at WrestleMania 11, so he actually made an appearance for WWF and several appearances beforehand in the run-up to it. And then he switched to WCW as a commentator. He got lured into the ring in a feud with Ric Flair and Arn Anderson, where he partnered with fellow NFL great Kevin Green. I think it was a Bash at the Beach. And he famously turned on Kevin Green during that match and weirdly became a member of the Four Horsemen. And he even had a run as US champion, so where he beat Jeff Jarrett. So, you know, he definitely won. He brings back a lot of good memories when I was a kid, watching Steve McMichael at the commentary table and then in the ring, and now in my collection. Right, I've just spied. I'm just going to pause just a second because I've just spied I'd lost one on the floor over there before I came over. Okay, final figure of the day for today. So this is going to be a bit of a running episode again because I do have a few I've got left to receive. One of them is absolute belter, so I'll be really pleased when I get that one. I'll be able to do in a couple of days another follow-up to this video. Also, if you know on Vinted, you only get so long to confirm you're happy with the item. And just in case there are any issues, I don't like doing that until I've opened them, but then I save everything up to open for this. So I've got to do this in pieces at the minute whilst I've got so many. So this is the second to last Drunk Chris purchase. What have we got? What have we got? Eagle eye ones of you will be able to see through the bubble wrap. This had to be done. Mankind. And not just any Mankind, but this is a Jakks BCA Mankind. Now, the one that I had was exactly the same as this, except for it came from the Signature Series 1, so it had his signature on one of his legs. But this isn't from there, so it's not got the signature, but it's exactly the same figure. This is my favourite version of Mankind, I think, because, again, like I said on my podcast, he was mentioned. I don't know if he did make my top 5. So I'm actually, I'm getting good at acquiring all the top 5 ones now. Head sculpt, the face needs a lot to be desired. They probably didn't need to worry so much because it's hidden by his hair and his mask, but still looks a bit weird. It's the outfit. It's just, this was absolute spot on, even down to detail on his boots here. I absolutely love this one. Being able to do then the mandible claw, because obviously, you know, the fingers he used were famously hooded up, as it were. And yeah, I love this version of Mankind. He was demonic, you know. I'd never seen anyone sort of take down the Undertaker like he did. And this is whenever anyone says anything about Mankind, this is what I go back to rather than the shirt wearing sort of friendly one that we saw later on down the line. I much preferred this version. So he, like the Signature Series Steve Austin that I got in the last video, he had to be in my collection somewhere. So I will say Drunk Chris, very good. You know, may have blown my monthly budget quite early, but these were ones that I would have been sad if I hadn't have, you know, if I hadn't pulled the trigger on them. So we just one final, that's all the figures out the way, one final purchase, which again, I don't know why this was lingering on my watch list and I hadn't got it, because we're talking, this was an item, I do this, particularly on Vinted, see items for like a couple of quid, 150, whatever, but I am an hour about them because I think by the time you add the postage to them, it's like, is it worth that really? And some of this stuff is real nostalgia stuff. If you haven't guessed it, this is real nostalgia stuff that I'm getting. So for me, bringing back the memories is means just as much. So I saw this instant core memory unlock for me. I had this. I even can probably remember the day I got it. It's just simply, it's a poster book, or it's a superstar book. It just has one of these where it just says something. It's got little profiles about all the wrestlers in it. But at the time, I was just buying everything to do with wrestling, any magazine I could find. And this one, the size, the look, the colours of it, the era. Again, we're talking 1994, early 95 actually, with Diesel as a champ. It's got a date on there. Would have been 95. See the guys on the back who were in there at the time. Yeah, very well. I wouldn't say very late 94 because Diesel was only the champion for like 6 weeks at the end of 94. So doesn't have the pull-out poster. I think this had a massive poster of Diesel in there, and this was one. I think it had a picture of Diesel. I think this is the one where it's the first one I saw of him with the title belt. And I had a habit of wanting to have my own title belts, and I'll come onto this probably in another episode of something where I talk about what I used to do to make my own championship belts. One of the earliest things that I did was I had a massive poster of Diesel holding the title belt like that, and I cut it out, stuck it on a bit of cardboard, and that was my winged eagle at the time. That was my championship, and I have a feeling that came with this, but I'm not sure. Anyway, yeah, $3.99 at the time. That was a special price. That meant you were getting something extra special because that was probably more expensive than the magazine was. But you think nowadays magazines cost like £8. But yeah, this was just one of those moments. Core memory unlock. Just had to have it. With the other stuff that I've got, the programs and the sticker albums and that, this is again something that I had that I'm glad I've got again. So there you go. So all in all for this round, there'll be more of this video as the other purchases turn up. But at the moment, Drunk Chris, I'll give you a double thumbs up. You've done all right. Hey guys, so it's bank holiday weekend, bank holiday Monday. I think it's been a couple of days since I did the first part of this video, and I'm really, really excited about this one because, of course, I've got a couple more packages to open to show you. But one reason why this is a little like Christmas, really, for me, this one, because in this one here, no word of a lie, this is a grail in here. And you'll see why when I get into it, and you'll probably see why I've been unable to I've been really trying to contain my excitement for doing this one because I've waited, I've not opened it, ready to show you so that we can all go through it together. One of my more questionable purchases for Drunk Chris last week, which has resulted in obviously this week's video. But this is one actually that I am very, very pleased with, that I in that moment that I did click the button on this one, as you'll see. So let's get over there so I can show you what's in that box. Right, so let's get into it. So the first package of the two, this one, not quite the levels of excitement as the other one, but this is cool even so. So this wasn't a drunk Chris purchase. This was a sober Chris purchase, just really because of the price. And also I was just more curious. I've been curious about this line, so I wanted to try and at least get one to see what they're like. So this is a Vinted purchase, and we have got Scott Hall from the original San Francisco toy company. If I've got that wrong, I do apologize. But this is the WCW line, which preceded the Toy Biz line. So this was the one after they had sort of the more oversized Galoob style figures, more like the LJNs that they released in about 94, 95. This was the first line they did, then in between that and the Toy Biz ones. 96, I'm going to say this was released, as we can see, as Scott Hall. I think it might be 97 maybe, even by the time they got around to releasing these. I was just really intrigued with these ones because they are obviously the first kind of articulated WCW figures that we had. I never saw them. Never. I mean, the first WCW ones that I saw past the Galoobs were the Toy Biz line later on. So I never got to see and feel these ones. They've always looked in the pictures like these are really quite like baby toys, almost like preschool wrestling figures kind of thing, because they are. There's no realism to them, to be honest. The molds are really quite, I'd say, clunky and clumsy looking. But I was always intrigued by them because, I mean, these if a toy line looks like it's been rushed out for release with very little detail, it was these guys. But I'm actually fairly impressed with this, to be honest. I didn't know that the legs actually moved. I thought this was quite static, and it was just the arms that moved. Comes with an action here. If I can figure out how to do this, what it's meant to do. That looks pretty stuck to me. So maybe that's part of the reason why he was so cheap. That doesn't actually work anymore. But even so, it's not like I'm going to be actually wrestling with these. But the classic Scott Hall look with the waistcoat, the Hall on his tights, the sort of dripping red on his knee pads there. It's as basic as they come. It looks like a cheap knockoff rather than an official WCW release. But, you know, compared to what I thought I was going to get, this is actually pretty cool. And I don't mind sharing prices on this. I think this was like £1.50, something like that. I really didn't mind taking the risk on this one just to have, say, I've got one of the original San Francisco toy line figures in my collection. So I don't know if I'm going to add any more. This might be the only one, but you know what? As a display piece, quite cool. You stand up with no problem as well. So yeah, I'm pretty happy with that. So yeah, that's pretty cool. Now, sadly, he is going to pale in comparison to this one, as you will see once I get into this. So this is one. This didn't even make it on my. This was an eBay purchase. This wasn't Vinted because I haven't seen one of these on Vinted at all. I've only seen these on eBay or maybe in some of the collector groups, but the price sometimes these guys go for is quite high. And this, when I started out, so this is a Galoob. So following on from earlier on, we've got Elegante in the collection now. I was fortunate to have another Galoob to add to the collection here. Now this is one. I think this is one of the reasons why, next to PN News and that, this was probably one of the other reasons why I wanted to try to get this collection going. I didn't think I would ever lay my hands on him because this was one of the ones that I put on my sort of high ticket, big ticket items. You probably guess, and you can probably see who it is, those eagle-eyed ones of you. But I cannot believe I'm about to unveil. We have the natural Dustin Rhodes Galoob. This is one I knew existed when I was a kid. Never even got close to seeing one in the flesh at all. And then as I got older, I realized the importance of him, how rare he was. He was a UK exclusive. This is from the Series 2, which was a UK exclusive. But he, for some reason, seemed to be in much, much shorter supply than some of the others. But there we go. I mean, everything about this one. I loved Dustin Rhodes. I loved the natural back then. To be honest, I loved everything he did. But I did love his version, you know, his this era of him when he was in WCW. And even though he's got some redemption skill on like his waistcoat here, I wouldn't have bothered about that. It's the detail on here, the boots. I loved his boots, a bit like Barry Windham's really. I loved the detail on there. His iconic Bulldog, you could definitely get that going in there. And so, you know, it's just a fantastic figure. And to be fair, this is actually probably in better condition than a lot of the other ones that I've got in the collection. I may have broken one of my rules with this one, but I knew there were going to be a few that I would have to pay more for. But on average, I've got some that are way, way under. Obviously, my budget was. So I knew I was going to have to shell out a little bit more at some point. But this was a drunk Chris purchase because I think I would have talked myself out of this quite quickly. when I seen it, but he didn't. He hit the button, and then before I know it, I've actually got a Dustin Rhodes in the collection. Which now, thinking off the top of my head, again, I'll summarise this best with my checklist at some point towards the end of this video. But off the big ticket items, that's entrance gear Lex off the list. We now have Dustin Rhodes off the list. We've got Elegante off of Series 2. So it is blue tights Barry Windham, blue tights Brian Pillman, ring gear Sting, and Big Josh to go. So there we go. Very, very happy chappy. I cannot believe he is going to take pride of place in the set. In fact, I don't really do this very often, but I am going to put him straight in. Let's do it. Take him over here, because I've been waiting quite a while to do this. Now, where is he going to go is the big question. Very little space here. Tell you what, I'm going to hit pause here, and then I'm going to figure this out, and then I'll be back. And there we have it. Only problem is, because of his stance, he sadly doesn't fit straight on in this little holder that I've got going on here. But there he is, next to PN News. Exactly where I thought he would be, with the likes of PN News, because that's where, where the kind of guys he was working with down at the time. Dustin Rhodes. Oh, his glory, there we go. Dustin Rhodes, PN News. Look at these other guys here. Now, excitingly, I've just reeled off the few that I've got left. I've actually got one of them on order, actually on its way. I hit the button on that yesterday. So I will have either another part of this video, depending on how long it takes. I'll try and knit it onto this one if I can keep this video going long enough. And I'll have him in here, because I think this is really where, as you can see, the collection is nearing conclusion. It's very, very exciting. I mean, this was what I started this whole thing off for, to chronicle my journey, not only into this collecting thing, but particularly the Galoobs. And it's a big day. I mean, it might not be, a lot of people can probably have Dustin Rhodes in their collection and not really that excited about it, but I don't know. I think many people would. But there we go. Very, very happy chappy. So my week really isn't over yet. Even after the excitement of adding Dustin Rhodes to my collection, which obviously was a real grail piece for me, I'm off to pick up something that I couldn't turn down. It is one for the Galoob collection. It's nearing me closer to completion. It's one of those that I thought I would wait a little bit longer for. But the opportunity came up to get it. I've been umming and ahhing about it for a little while, and I thought, what the hell? I'm in a position where I can probably, I need to take advantage of it now while it was there. So I'm on my way out now to collect it. So I'll keep you posted. Wasn't as straightforward as I was hoping there for a second, but the problem with the locker opening. But there we go. I got it. So let's get back inside and let's have a see what we got. So, bit of an impromptu video this one, so I'm just trialing this from my desk once. But there we go. This is what I've just picked up, and I'll be able to show you what the excitement's all about, because obviously we've got this guy here already this week. We've added in Dustin Rhodes. Still, I think he's probably obviously gone straight to the top. One of my favourites that are in my collection now. Dustin Rhodes, really just because of the fact that I didn't think I was going to have him. And inside here is another one of those that I didn't think I was going to be able to lay my hands on. When I first started looking into the Galoobs again, I was reminded of this figure. And again, he was one of those mythical ones, I suppose, that I kind of thought I'd seen something about. But because he wasn't one that I saw very often, if not at all when I was younger, didn't think he actually existed. You know, one thing I will say is that I absolutely love about vintage is you never know what your packages are going to come in. So here it's been sent in an Easter egg box, which is great. Never too late or early, in my opinion, to be opening Easter egg boxes. So, see what's in here. Try to show you the best as I can. Obviously, I'm not doing this from my usual standpoint, so forgive me if this is a bit all over the place. What's inside? Now, what I will say, I've got two here. The one that you'll know why I went for the one I did. Clearly, it'll become very obvious. I was able to strike a deal with the seller. This is a vintage one. I was able to strike a deal with the seller. Basically, he was one of those where I knew he had some wrestling stuff. More than this figure, he had a few wrestling listings. And he's basically like, I've got more if you want to have a look. So I had a look. And I was like, you know what? I do quite like this guy as well. So any chance you could do a deal. And he did me a deal on both of them, which meant that the main one was actually less than I thought I was going to get him for. First one that I will show you, though, had to snap this guy up. British Bulldog Bendum. Can't remember what they were actually called. But this is 1994/early 95 Davey Boy Smith. And I think since I've got the British Bulldog Jakks BCA, and this one was too good to pass up really. I used to have the 123 Kid Bendum years ago when I was collecting a little bit when I was at uni, which I absolutely loved that one. And this is exactly the same kind of mold, very, very simple. A good likeness though of that era of Davey Boy. I was quite a fan of the 94/95 before he became a heel. I think I probably mentioned it when I opened the BCA. I quite liked even his really early heel days, but I loved the long hair, long tights, Bulldog on his sort of armband things there. There you go. So he was a little added extra, which actually helped to, in a way, bring the price down a little bit on the main guy. So who is the main guy? Why have I just tools down and popped out to get this one now? How about that? Entrance Gear Series 2 Galoob Sting. This is a UK exclusive, and he goes. Do this without disrupting my collection too much, my display too much. Oops, there goes Dustin. Knew he wasn't going to stay where I put him. Obviously goes with entrance gear Lex Luger. So I mean, these two together, I mentioned it when I unwrapped Lex. Probably not two that I would have been able to play with very well as a kid. It's a great looking figure, these are. I love the Lex one. I will show them off again. But the Sting really just captured that early 90s surfer, colourful, really gaudy in a way looking Sting with the tassels. Now, what are you meant to do with this in terms of play pose? I mean, these were never intended for play, I wouldn't have thought. I think these were always intended as display pieces. I'll stand by that, and there's not a lot you can do with that. It's almost as annoying as the Hasbro Randy Savage. I don't know what series it was, but the one with the tassels, the jumper action, which I hate anyway, with the cap and the tassels. And that. I love the look of that Randy Savage figure, but the playability of it was absolutely naff. I would say the same for this, but I'm not playing with them. I'm displaying them and collecting them, so this is absolutely ideal. I love the detail there with the pink, was it purple? Scorpion on the black tights. It's a very cool look he's got going on there. The black and the pink and the purple. And this and the Lex were tricky ones. I thought they're part of my big four, my four big ticket items that I've set out, which also included Big Josh and Dustin Rhodes. So I'm now 3/4 of the way through my big ticket items. So we are getting quite close here. Now I've said this every time, but I really do think it's going to start slowing down because of the ones I've got left are pricey and hard to come by. So I'm going to enjoy this while I've got it. Being able to unwrap these, because I think it is about to breaks are about to come on. But there we go. Today's acquisition: entrance gear, Galoob Sting, UK exclusive. I just got to find the spot for him now in my ever decreasing or increasing display and decreasing display space. But there we go. That might be it for the week. I don't know. We'll see. I might have something else turn up before the end of the week before I kind of wrap this one together. But happy with that. Superpowers, whatever they were called. I can't remember what they were called now. When they David Boyd Sting, when they went up against Vader and Sid Vicious in WCW in sort of summer fall '93. There you go. Today's steals. Thank you very much. So as you can see, my week is not quite over yet. I was coming back from the school run and 2 packages on the doorstep. So I know I've got a few things that were left. I'm grateful that a couple of them have turned up together. So to round off this week's video, let's get over there. Let's find out what's in them. And then we can take a look at everything that I've amassed over this week, because it's been quite a busy one. So we can bring it all together and just see what we've done to bolster the collection this week. Let's go. So we got 2 packages here. Start with this one here. So these are both Vinted. One of them is what I've been referring to as Drunk Chris purchase, which that was on my watch list, and I was merrily going through and just hitting buy on everything last weekend. This one isn't. I think if I remember rightly, I don't know actually. No, this might be. See what it is. See what's inside. I thought this was the other one, but I think it is actually, yeah. Oh wow! Expecting that. There we go. We are about to go on the Ho train. Really bad impression there, I do apologise. With the Godfather, and I didn't realise he actually came with this hat, which is awesome. So the Jakks BCA Godfather figure, like I've said with a lot of these, not one I had back in the day, one that I realised was around after I sadly stopped collecting. So I didn't really have the chance to get him. So this is Charles Wright as his pimp persona, which was massively popular in the Attitude Era. Charles Wright had tried a couple of other gimmicks before. He was, of course, Papa Shango, who was one of my most feared / favourite gimmicks back in sort of '92. And then he came back to the WWF in '95 as Karma, which was one of my favourite wrestlers. Such a dire year. One of my favourite new wrestlers was Karma, the Supreme Fighting Machine. He then came back to WWF in '97, mid '97 in the summer as part of the Nation of Domination as Karma Mustafa, and then I think it was around about '98 he created this, or he evolved this pimp character, which was where it really took off. So I mean, great detail on here in terms of the tattoos. The tattoos obviously look like they've worn a little bit through play, which is only to be expected. With a really bright trouser and sort of tank top, gear there with a waistcoat. The hat, I love the fact that wasn't in the picture. That's why I wasn't expecting that. So that's really cool. Yeah, actually, he's really loose, but he would be great just stood there. If again, I'm not going to be sort of playing around with them at all. So what's quite nice with this one is alongside the first Jakks BCA that I added, really, which was one of the first ones, which was the Blue Blazer. We've got more of the story of that night. Obviously, he's meant to face the Godfather for the IC title. So the pinnacle of Charles Wright's Godfather persona was obviously winning the Intercontinental Championship. I think it was from Goldust in early '99, and then he dropped it eventually to Jeff Jarrett. But great figure, yeah. What more can I say? It really speaks for itself. It's really got the kind of size right, the scale, quite chunky like he was, and just it looks really, really cool. So he'll look great alongside all the others when eventually I've been able to get space sorted. So brilliant. So that was a drunk Chris purchase. That was on my watch list for a little while. Again, only a few quid, I think. And for whatever reason, I just haven't been following through with a lot of these. And then I decided payday comes, and the other part of me would decide he's just going to go through and buy all these things. So it's great. This is more of a conscious purchase, something quite different. I wasn't in the market for anything other than figures, really. I mean, I've been doing magazines and that kind of memorabilia, but I wasn't in the market for this. But I saw it, and for obvious reasons, as you'll see, I did want to bring it into the collection because I hadn't seen one of these. I may have seen them back in the day and not really paid them too much mind because I've not been into collecting cars since I was 5, 6, something like that. These kind of spin-off things, these spin-off lines never did anything for me. I was just in for the figures. But the what do they call it? Nitro Street Rods collection of 1998, I'm going to say 1998 there, yeah, for Steve Mongo McMichael. And this is obviously following on from his sad passing a couple of weeks ago, where I did managed to get my hands on one of his WCW figures, and I thought this was just a really nice companion piece to that figure. It's something you don't see very often. Again, I've not seen anything like it on Vinted, and it was just there. It was really reasonably priced. Fine, the card has seen better days, but I'm not in for mint condition on these things. It's just kind of really having these really interesting pieces. So on the back, just got a little bit about the line there with Sting, oddly enough. Don't know why they decided to place him on the back, but it does say up here that 1 of 19,998. So part of a collector series, a Starcade collector series. So, it's quite cool. It's a very cool piece, and I've just got the intention of displaying this alongside my Steve McMichael figure. So that was all that was. So there we go. Rounds off a really, really cool week. And what I'll do in a minute is I'll just get everything together that we've had for this week, just so we can sort of take a look in full. But yeah, see you on the other side. So here we go. Here's the roll call for the week, and to be fair, I think this has probably been one of my favourite weeks so far. So the original San Francisco toy line, Scott Hall, Mankind, Jakks BCA, Jeff Jarrett, Steve McMichael, Bigger and Street Rod, Bret Hart, who is giving up trying to stand up, old Triple H, the Godfather, the British Bulldog ×2, including the Bendy, and then we get to, I think, the stars of this week. Obviously, Dustin Rhodes, Entrance Gear Sting, and Elegante. Not too shabby at all. So I had actually already recorded the end to this week's video, saying that there was another piece that was coming. There's one more bit that I wanted to cover off. There are a couple of shipments that were due to arrive, and they were due to arrive in the next week, ready for next week's video. So I was going to leave it till then, and then no sooner had I hit the stop button, the postman turned up, and it was actually here. So rather than eke this out, I am going to cover this one in this week's. Because this has really been a week of just constant. There seems to be something turning up every day, which has been really, really cool. And again, as I said at the top of the episode, most of this has been a result of me almost absent-mindedly on Saturday night, relaxed in every sense of the word, and just literally hitting buy on my watch list, which I wouldn't ordinarily have done. So it's been great. It's been a real fun week. It's been one where I've got a couple of real kind of grail items there with the Sting entrance gear, the entrance gear Sting, and the Dustin Rhodes, obviously, for the Galoobs. It's great to get back to adding to the Galoobs again, and this is what this one is all about. So going into this, I've said through the week, we are now down to 3 that I needed to get. This is one of them, hence why I don't really want to leave it. So we're going to head on over there without further ado, so I can show you which one has made its way to me now. Before I get to the main event and show you what's in the box, there was something else that I wanted to show you that arrived with it, which I completely forgot about. And when I decided to buy the Steve McMichael street rods that I thought, how cool would it be to have alongside that and the Steve McMichael figure, but a Steve McMichael trading card. And I found this one, which is his 1998 Tops, I believe. Yep, Tops release. It's his rookie WCW card. So this was actually the first one he had. And there you go, tells you all about him on the back. And I just thought it was really cool. You know, after having the other WCW trading cards to display alongside the Galoobs, I just really like it when you can get hold of one that has some meaning and, you know, will look good in the collection displayed alongside those other couple of bits. So real kind of tribute there to Steve McMichael. But I thought that was quite cool. And so I'll give them a shout out. The guys here, SC Cards, are the ones that I bought from. And they're actually on eBay. That's where I got this one. And what was really cool is they actually threw in a couple of freebies as well. So I've got, not that I keep up with the current product at all, but I've got a Panini NXT Carmelo Hayes trading card there, which is quite cool. And also they threw in a sticker as well. Now, I have no idea who this is, so I apologise for everyone who's probably screaming at me, but I have no idea. So if anyone knows who it is, or anyone would like it, obviously, you know, I'm happy to part with both of these because they don't really fit in the collection that I've got going on. But thank you guys for that. But yeah, very cool to have that. I like these little quirky little bits that I'm finding, you know, like the street rod car and the trading cards and all that. Yeah, I've seen some great little bits that I'm really tempted by. But anyway, here we are. And this is it. This is going to be, I think, the last one that I can firstly afford to get for a while. But we are getting to the stage where there's only literally going to be after this 2 that I need for the Galoobs, and it's going to become really difficult to find them, as you will see when we see which one it is I've got left. And I would say the fact that there is just one figure in here, this is really, really well packaged. So shout out to AJ. So I've gone from JJ to AJ. From also the Wrestling Figures UK Facebook group. I put a post out showing my Galoob collection off the other day, and I had a couple of people message me to ask who I was waiting on. And this is one of them. So hopefully, just in case it reveals it. You ready? Oh, we got more. AJ, quality packer, mate. Thank you so much. And we've got more again, I believe. So here we go. Finally getting to it. You ready? Who's it going to be? You guessed it, or you may have not guessed it. We are looking at Series 2 UK exclusive, quite a rarity. I mean, these guys are out there, but it's quite rare to find them and find them at a decent price. Blue tights, Brian Pillman. There's a difference here, obviously, blue tights, as you'll see, but also he's got these like lions depicted on his knee pads as well. And I don't know again if this is myth or what, There is another version with only one pad with a line on it and the other is blank. Whether that's a legitimate Galoob release, I'm not sure, but I am more than happy with this. And we're talking about decent quality, like, because the ones I've seen online, they've had fingers missing or the paint, obviously is scuffed, but this is in such good condition. Tiny little couple of nicks there on the back, but compared to some of the others that I've got, now, I know I've not been fussy, but I think when you're on the lookout for these guys, in particular the last couple that I'm after, condition is key, because if you're going to spend this amount of money sometimes on one figure, you want it to be in decent condition, and I'm really, really pleased with this. Minor marks you're talking about on the boots here. I'm not picky. You've seen the condition of some of the ones I've got. And the fact that I can have one of these the rare ones in such good condition is just amazing. So this is a figure I didn't even know this existed until I actually started looking at this collection again. I didn't realise there was a variation on Brian Pillman or Barry Windham, or that they were this hard to come by and this, and pricey. So that means the two we've got left, if you're keeping check, is the Blue Tights Barry Windham and Big Josh, and we are talking about what I've seen. For me, anyway, serious money. I've been able to cut a few deals with these last few to get them at, better prices than I thought I was going to get. But to top off, what a week for Entrance Gear Sting, Dustin Rhodes, and now Blue Tights by Brian Pillman in 1 week. Thank you very much. Thanks, guys. That really does top off this week. That is it. I am not adding any more. I'm not expecting any more. I got one more. Tell a lie. I have got one more that is due to be delivered any day, but it's not a major one. It's not worth me holding the video up for. It's not really one I'm going to even, I think, put into another video, because it was just one of those, this was one of those sort of drunk Chris purchases. Wasn't very much. It's just another one to add in the Jakks BCA that was there. So this for me is where I pause for a bit and I get the collection sorted out. I get some more money back in the fund so I can get back out there. So we have 2 left. Now, I started this whole go figure thing with the intention of following my collecting journey, but mainly the WCW Galoobs, and we are 2 down. 2 to go, I should say. And we've been doing what, 7-8 weeks, not very long at all. So thank you to everyone who's helped me out so far put this collection together. It won't stop, I'm sure. I've got these last 2 to find. Once I've got them, then it becomes probably trying to swap some out for better quality ones, but I'm really not that driven to do that straight away. So Big Josh and Blue Tights Barry Windham, that is it. And I am fully expecting that it's going to be a while before I lay my hands on these. So keep checking back on the channel. I am going to put some stuff out here, like I've said in previous episodes. I will go into more detail with some of these other bits that I've acquired along the way. The WWF programs, the WCW tour program, magazines, that kind of thing. It'd be great to delve into the pages of those. So I'll do a few of those. But yeah, anyone out there who has been following my journey for the WCW Galoobs, thank you so much for supporting the episodes, supporting the channel, helping me out in either telling me where I can find these, or if you've got them and you've helped add to this, thank you so much. And yeah, stay tuned. 2 left. I'm not giving up until I've got them both. We'll see how long it takes. See you then.
If you enjoyed this episode, please take a moment to like, share, and hit the subscribe button. Also follow us on Facebook and Instagram at Once Upon a Turnbuckle to keep updated about all future shows.